sequence is I go to BOM, I put this part in, it's a front window assembly. This is actually yours. Okay, so it's a GTH, right? GTH means Genie Telehandler, okay?
Okay.
That machine is only made in Umbertide and in OKC. So basically, OKC says they are not going to provide this window assembly to us anymore. Okay? So what I will do is, you see the bombs are in set up for different organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different parts involved. But I saw 033 here. 033 is North Bend Fab, right? If OKC kicks us out, our first reaction would be, okay, can we have North Bend Fab supply it if it's an assembly like this, right? So I only select 033 and look at the BOM, okay? There are so many parts involved, right? So can 033 build it? I don't know. So what do? I export this BOM to an Excel spreadsheet. So I can investigate at the part number level where we buy parts from and who has inventory. Okay? So for this particular, it's a window assembly, right? So what's the most important part in a window assembly?
Glass.
The
Frame.
glass. Okay, so this is the critical piece. 230044. Okay? Do we have inventory anywhere? Do we, know who has it? We don't know. So let me go. So my second go-to would be the supply demand. And here I type in 230044. Voila! I hit jackpot. Look, 033 has 6 pieces in stock. So what does that tell me? It gives me an indication that North Bend probably has the capability to build this glass for me.
Okay.
Okay? So what I will do next is, remember I exported this BOM, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would use my spreadsheet and check one by one. It takes time, one by one, in the supply demand to see if 033 has stock on the rest of the key parts, like the gasket, the bushing, the bumper, the wiper, the motor, like 130198. 0198 GT. Voila, look, 033 has 19. That gives me even more confidence that 033 should be the one
Okay.
that will take this part, right? So this gives me the indication where this part can be sourced, right? So I would get 033 this cutout. I would even give them the inventory I see in the system on their hand when I send it to Colton, the North Bend general manager, and say, Colton, can you take this part? Can you make this part for me? And if he says yes, then we resolve the sourcing issue.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, because it's all like dealing with North Bend, I think I sent it to Michelle to help her deal with it. But I want to kind of give you an idea on how we go about, right? I think all three of these are like glass cab related.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking for this and I looked for a different site and had no clue.
Yeah. So this is where, you know, you kind of have to do a little investigation. If North Bend Fab doesn't have anything, North Bend doesn't even have these set up,
Mm-hmm.
then we're pretty much having to source it. And then we have to go to, you know, the serial number, the parts manual, and find out when the part was last used in production. And then go to the serial number and get an idea to see if we can obsolete them. See
Okay.
what I mean? Because
Okay.
for you, if you have to source these individual parts to have a third party build this for you,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It's going to take forever, and you know, we don't want to do that until we absolutely need to. Like if, you know, this was last used in production last year, yeah, you cannot obsolete it. You have to find a supplier at all costs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you will go back to beg the older supplier if they can continue to support it, or go to the glass supplier, give them all the drawings and get it quoted, right? So Michelle is facing the issue with this particular part number. It's not sourced. Okay, so I'm just using this as an example for you.
What do you
Now,
mean it's not sourced?
so right now it says source, resource. It's
Uh,
not. It was
oh.
built by Moses Lake before, and Moses Lake says we're not going to build it. Oh, I'm sorry. This might be. So for this case, you know, I can go through the same process with you. I go to BOM just to find out what this part is. Let's go to the BOM. Okay, it's a boom weldment, #1 arm. So weldment, what does it include? You know, the part numbers that are included in this. You can say, okay, 033. You know, there might be a candidate for it because they have this particular bomb set up in 033. If you look at the parts, how many parts are involved?
Oh my gosh, there are a lot of plates.
Yes. And 1, 2, whatever, right? So what Michelle did also, like I explained to you, you export this into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you copy all these parts and dump them in eCost just to see when we last purchased these items and where we purchased them from. This, and also if you look into search for everything, look at this part drawing right now, it's at Rev H. So you have all these drawings, Rev A, B, C, D, whatever. Right now, the latest drawing is Rev H. So you open up the drawing, you can actually see what the part looks like. You see how complicated this part is?
Okay.
So we have to source it because we checked on the last production. The customer actually has this machine. It was like 2019, something like that. It's only 2 years. So we have to support it. So it becomes a question, can North Bend Fab support it? Okay? Or we source the whole thing to a third party. And Michelle did her investigation. She found out that North Bend Fab actually did an FAI in 2013 on this item.
But never build it?
2013, never built a So all of the sourcing for these individual parts is no longer there. So she went to North Bend. North Bend Fab says, can you help us with the sourcing of all of these individual parts? So it's a major task. So what Michelle and I talked about is we do have a one-off supplier that does these boom weldments, boom tubes. So what we have decided is we're going to pull individual drawing. We're going to pull 31 drawings plus this assembly drawing and send it to one supplier and ask them if they can quote the whole thing.
Wow. Okay.
So the supplier will be making these individual parts as well as making this whole assembly. So for us to send this to North Bend Fab does not make a lot of sense because North Bend Fab does not make individual parts. They have to buy individual parts, then assemble them, weld them together.
Mm-hmm.
So like, okay, why not that we just send the whole thing out for a quote? So that is also, one of the options that we have when we have no choice but to source it. Now the cost of this thing is going to go through the roof. When this one was in current production, it's probably, $1,500, $2,000. If we have to source it somewhere, this is going to be easily $5,000 to $8,000.
Do we just need one piece?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that.
It's going to be crazy. It's like custom made a major component on a machine for one piece. And then this piece has to go through FAI. And guess what? Majority of the time the supplier will fail the first FAI. This thing is going to be shipped and returned to the supplier and reworked. Last year I had a chassis weldment where we went through, the supplier supplied it, wrong, we returned it. It's like each one-way transportation was $2,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then they went back, they fixed it, they shipped it again to our warehouse, failed again. And then we had to have North Bend Fab help to make it right so that we can get it to the customer because the customer was so mad that we couldn't deliver. So there were some adjustments, internal help that we enlisted. But it took like 3 times for the supplier to pass the PPAP on one of these. So that is why it is very, very challenging. So for you, glass, door assembly, those would be the items that will be very hard to outsource.
Okay.
Like Curtis Instrument, those are the parts that are supplier design, not our design.
Mm-hmm.
So if they tell you it's obsoleted, you basically have no choice. You have to either ask engineering if there's a solution, or you have to beg the supplier to find another solution for you, or you just obsolete because the supplier obsoleted, you have no choice because you cannot source it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is kind of the